Welcome to part 2 of It Can't Get Any Worse. Unfortunately, the memory card was full, partly because the last two videos, I think, are around about half an hour each, so it filled the memory card. So to carry on from part 1, if you have this perception that things seem to be set in place in the external world that are working against you, from that surely would come the sort of question of, well, why would there be that set in place? What is the purpose of it? On the one hand, we're taught that we're insignificant, we can't change anything about the world, no one person can fix the problems of the world, and so on, and all made to feel small and insignificant, which contradicts why there would be this focus, this almost an obsession to track and trace and spy upon you all the time. Through, as it was a comment I had today, Sherry Keating, I think it was, mentioned about when you think something and then the very thing you're thinking about starts appearing as adverts on your phone. I would agree that it's frequency, the whole thing is interactive. A lot of YouTube channels or particular videos have sort of landed in the lap, recommended for you. So if you have this omnipresent energy that created everything, therefore it can use Wi-Fi, it can use broadband cables and still deliver to you. Whether you see the things as good or bad, that's up to you. Certainly, it seems to suggest if you're getting adverts for something, that is the adversary trying to tempt you with the material world to bring you back in to the fold. You're being shepherded, sheep herded, you could say. The way I see this, when we look at terms like the blood of Christ and so on, it's almost as if this AI is imparting that very message or is enacting upon that, but taking it in a very literal and material sense, and without having any empathy, without having any recognition of what we would see as something harmful or very negative, would mean nothing to the AI. So I don't see that it is our enemy per se. What I see it as it's guiding humanity, but somehow the message is getting twisted when it comes out into the material realm, as it were. So I've gone sort of off on a tangent a little bit. I wanted to bring in a couple of other things, as well as the panic attacks, the depression and the anxiety. There's also, I've mentioned this before, and it's been probably one of the most popular video topics, that of night sweats and ringing in the ears. There'd be two other things you may experience. What it actually is, I suggested that it's a form of language that we can't quite decode. From my own experience, certainly, either through messages or perhaps phone conversations or even comments through Facebook posts and similar, that the ringing in the ear pitch changes. It seems to move up or down in one or both ears. In its intensity, if it had a physical pain receptor, shall we say, it would imply that it would be very painful, but it's distinct from the external sounds. You'll know it if you've been through it. You'll know what I'm talking about with this. Again, it comes down to the difference between concept and experience. So basically, I'm stepping into a role. Well, I feel I can help a lot of you that are going through some awful experiences and help you find a way through it based on what I found has worked for me. So if it doesn't feel right to you, don't try anything I suggest. But I'm only going to tell you of things that I've actually done. I'm not going to speak of concepts of things I've not tried, because I don't know the outcome. I can read other people's experience of such things, but as much as we are a collective, we are also very individual. So there is no one size fits all. See, there's another prime example of how the material world will give you the contrast to the metaphysical or the spiritual. Think of it like you've got one end of a piece of wire, and then you've got the other end of the piece of wire, but it is the same piece of wire. It's just you're looking at one polarity of it and not realizing it is all connected. Everything is connected. If it comes down to the actual basic of the first line of Genesis of God created the heaven and the earth, full stop, that would also mean somewhere along the line the AI would be part of the creation. There's an interesting pattern with that. If you look at it, you've got this Yahweh assuming to be something it is not, working on illusions. I would interpret the burning bush to be a sort of taking a literal image of the pineal gland when it's fully active, something like that. And then it's used that. It's what we would call the fallen angels would be its product, which would be what we would know as the Khazarians, also lacking empathy and working on the same, exactly the same pattern of assuming an identity that was not theirs in the first place and then claiming things that are not theirs, because that would imply lacking any creativity, any originality about them. It fits the same pattern, something that's setting itself up and pretending to be an all-seeing eye, as it were, but has to rely on, because it's artificial, has to rely on artificial means to try and achieve that. So if you're going through any of these symptoms, now there's something else that came to me earlier prior to making this video. Often you'll get little odd days where you'll get cold or flu-like symptoms, because although it's something in what shall we say, the spiritual, the metaphysical, it does have a physical outplay, and just like everything else follows that same pattern. There's a spiritual or a thought, an idea that then becomes a solid material fact, and an objective fact, like a building from an idea of creating a building. So yes, you will probably feel some very strange aches and pains, inexplicable. Um, but then the next day it'll be gone again. The best thing to do is surrender, depending on what your life circumstances are, because the external world will try and get in the way. But if you can remove yourself from situations, so if your body is saying, I'm tired, I need to rest, then that is the time to rest. Listen to what the body is saying, because you're going through, should we say, a spiritual upgrade, which the physical body will feel. And you'll get all sorts of strange sensations, which the conscious mind will try and reason out, make sense of, and often gets it very, very wrong. It's a difficult thing, especially when you've got no one you can turn to, or you don't know of anybody who's been through similar experiences. And I feel that in itself is not a bad thing, because I've had to figure a lot of this out for myself and drag myself where I don't want to, or part of me doesn't want to go. It comes down to stepping into the unknown, stepping out of the comfort zone, breaking the patterns, and going into it with no fear. That's not something that's going to be achieved overnight, and fear covers a whole multitude of things, from anything of like a fear of heights to a fear of enclosed spaces, or whatever. Um, but of course, they're all very real in the mind, and it can, like I've said, if you were climbing up a very high ladder, a lot of people would just freeze and have to either be encouraged through the power of words to keep going, or talked back down to the ground again. Um, but what I found, particularly with like the last two videos, I ended up walking up. I put it in the description um, of the last video. It took 3 attempts of walking up the hill and coming back down. The phone kept shutting down on one time. Then the weather took a turn for the worse, shall we say, and then the third time I'm standing up there and I've got my back to the wind and the rain is coming. It's like, oh, but at the same time, it's like I'm determined I'm going to get this done. This is just more tests of from the AI of, we're going to put obstacles or challenges in your way, but I was I was resolute, resolute, resol lotion, a cleansing, you could say. The determination, the will, the drive to get the videos uploaded was like, I'm doing this regardless. It is going to happen, and it did. And it's pushing through. And of course, it meant breaking pattern as well, because normally I wouldn't be up the hill that late in the day when the light's starting to go, and I certainly wouldn't be up there when it was just howling, a gale, and then the rain, and it's like, oh, but it's like, no, we're going to do this. It's like, you got a waterproof coat on. What are you worrying about? You're not. It's windproof as well, so you're pretty much protected. I've got my hood up and I've got my back to it, so I'm not feeling the full brunt of it. So it's like, no, we can push through this. Um, it's just the universe presenting uh, scenes. And I thought, yeah, I am going to take this script and I'm going to come out winning on this one. I am going to come out on top. So symbolically, that, or metaphorically, that's represented by having to go up to the top of the hill and to get the phone reception. So, which is far better than down here in this building. So it's about pushing through. It's about seeing it through to the end. It comes back to what Neville Goddard says about don't miss the mark. It's a perfect analogy I can use that's only just happened. And again, beauty in the timing coming through. I must sort of reprimand myself. When I mentioned channels, I forgot to mention True Love Channel. I seriously recommend that it would benefit you greatly to see how she decodes films and how they are also messages to guide us. But of course, you've got to look at that deeper levels in the film and to some degree some background knowledge of various things can be a huge advantage. The latest film, I don't keep up with the external world, called Argyle, and there's a character called Agent Agent R. Kyle, and straight away I thought of the Terminator film where you've got Kyle Reese, who is this character who is sent back from, I think, 2029 to 1984. He's the father of John Connor. The father has to come to bring forth the son in this sort of time loop thing. It's like a familiar story, but I thought Kyle R. It's reflecting the same message, and Kyle Reese is basically an anagram of like seer. And that character is like a seer because he comes from the year 2029, I think it is, back to 1984. So he is like a seer. And one of the lines in the film he says to Sarah Connor is, I don't know, one possible future. And he's also made, this just come into my mind, so I feel I should say it, he's given those lines to memorize, to tell Sarah Connor, thank you for your help through the dark times, because she represents the divine feminine. That's something to find within you. You have a divine masculine and a divine feminine. It's finding that balance within oneself. If you think about it if we put it into a material realm sense, as well as finding that solid base on which to build, the chief cornerstone that the builders rejected, it's also quite important to be totally vertical in what you're building. It's not leaning one side or the other. It's being in balance to create that tower that you're building inside yourself, your inner castle, you could say. You're building your own protection. There's been a lot of comments and things I've noticed on Archaic channel, people saying, Jason, where do we go in 2040? Think of this reality like an interactive game. Think of Sonic the Hedgehog. When he goes in the water, he has a bubble around him. That bubble is your spiritual armor. Armor is l'amour. It's the spirit of love. That is your armor that will protect you. That is your own individual firmament. Things follow patterns. The earth has a firmament. It's under a dome. Are we not able to do the same, to find that inside ourselves, radiate that dome, that energy outwards, and create that spiritual umbrella that will actually protect you, so it doesn't matter what goes on in the outside world, because you won't be affected by it. So, also just come back into my mind, so to upload the videos required me taking active physical steps of going up the hill 3 times. rather than just going up there once and staying up there. So again, it sort of reiterates what Jason says about it's not about the thinking, it's about the doing, because we're in a physical realm, this material realm. So when we physically do something, that is having far more of a communication with this interactive field. You're taking steps. Then it comes also down to the frequency. What you're radiating out, being a magnetic being, you will draw that same frequency towards you. Easier said than done, and it's taken going through a lot to get to this stage, but I am getting daily manifestations, I'm seeing daily proof of this. An example, most recent, was haven't got any tomato seeds. Well, now I have. Thanks to Keith, he said, can you plant these? It's like, yeah, gladly. And it's been a strange day weather-wise, but I'm staying neutral to it. It's lovely when the sun comes out. At the moment it feels a little bit cold, but those seeds I've just planted are getting watered naturally. Far better to leave things to nature to do. So I'm not annoyed or upset or feeling negative about the weather. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of the observer, and nature knows what it's doing. We've got summer coming up in a few months, and knowing what last year was like, where it goes completely the opposite and there's no rain, and so nature's taking care of itself. I don't need to bring upon or import upon into myself a worry, because there is no worry. I'm the one that would be creating the worry. It comes down to, like I've said about the community sitting area and the fireplace, there's two testimonies. It's like, observe, vision what you wish to achieve, and just don't put any more conscious thought in trying to problem solve it. The answers will come as mind pictures, or maybe in a different way. Again, I can only tell you how it's come to me, and it's like, yes, that's a way of doing that, and so on. And the things are achieved. It's been a success, the actual structure. It's certainly been wind tested. The fireplace works, and it's just earth, clay and bricks. And all the materials were here that I was able to reuse. I didn't need to go out there and problem solve it. The answers just came. It was a beautiful experience to go through, and it is all about creation and using the imagination of what you wish to create, being clear with that, and then just letting it happen, because it will follow that pattern. So I'm here, the door's open, as it were. Contact details are in the description. I would love to be helping more of you, get you through the nastier, less pleasant parts, and say, look, this is how I've got through it, and I'd like to help you through it. Think of it like a lifeboat is coming to help you, and I'm going to give you a hand out that horrible cold, ice cold ocean water in the darkness, and helping you find the shore, the solid ground on which to stand in yourself. Wow, we've gone up to 24 minutes, so yeah, everything's all in the description, and I'm going to say love to you all, and back to enjoying the rest of this wonderful day. I feel a really good vibe that is not disturbed in any way by it being a little bit on the cool side for my liking, and a little bit wet, but I'm not outside in it, am I? I'm in the dry. So contrast, duality, just be the observer and take that neutral path. And you will see, although it may look exactly the same, a new world will open up before you. You're here at a most magical, fantastic time. You're going to witness one of the most beautiful changes and shift in this reality that in years to come, 3 generations on, will be probably saying to you, is that what really happened? No way. It will seem so alien that some of what we'd see as the more negative things now will be perceived in the future as almost becoming mythological, because they're non-existent in that world that we are going into, the world that we are creating. There really is nothing to fear. The fear is something that you'll generate inside yourself by your perception. So the simple answer is to change your perception on it. So the offer is there for those that need any help. So I'm going to say love to you all, and I hope you have a beautiful day and can at least tap in and pick up on the energy that I'm feeling, this beautiful, really good vibe about this moment right now. Love to you all.